The Whaley House in San Diego doesn't scream horror when you first see it. In fact, it looks calm, historic, almost welcoming. But the moment night falls, that calm begins to crack. This is not just another old house in America. This is known as America's most haunted house, and the walls remember everything. As the clock ticks past midnight, the silence inside the house feels heavy, like the air itself is watching you. Then it happens. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Footsteps moving across the wooden floor above your head. You stop breathing. You listen. Footsteps, footsteps, footsteps. But no one is there. The sound doesn't rush, doesn't panic. It walks with purpose. As if someone invisible is following a path they've walked 1,000 times before. Visitors often say the temperature suddenly drops without warning. One moment the room feels normal. The next it's freezing. Like something unseen has just passed through you. People turn around instinctively, convinced someone is standing behind them. Sometimes, they're right, or at least it feels that way. Shadow figures appear in doorways, tall and still, watching silently. When you blink, they vanish. But the fear doesn't. Doors inside the Whaley house have a mind of their own. A door you clearly closed moments ago is suddenly wide open. Another one slams shut so hard it echoes through the halls. No wind, no explanation. Just the sound, sharp, final, terrifying. Your heart races, your mind searches for logic. But logic doesn't survive long in this house. Some say they hear soft whispers, voices speaking just out of reach. You lean closer, trying to understand the words, but they fade into silence. Others feel a sudden pressure, like unseen eyes locked onto them, judging, waiting. This house was built on tragedy, on pain, on unfinished stories. And those stories refuse to stay buried. The Whaley house doesn't chase you. It doesn't need to. It simply reminds you that you are not alone. That some places never let go of the past. And once you step inside, something may follow you back out. Because in the Whaley house, the dead don't rest, they walk. Late at night, when the Whaley house should be completely asleep, the first thing people notice is not a scream, not a shadow, but a sound so simple it feels impossible to fear, until you hear it yourself. Footsteps. Slow, measured footsteps echoing across the old wooden floors. Not running, not rushing, just walking. As if someone unseen knows exactly where they are going. At first, visitors assume it must be another person. Maybe a tour guide, maybe someone upstairs. But the sound doesn't match human behavior. The steps don't hesitate. They don't change rhythm. They move with confidence. Like the house itself is being paced by something that has done this for decades. The sound often begins above your head. One footstep. Then another, then another. The wood creaks under invisible weight. Boards bending as if pressed down by real feet. People tilt their heads upward, counting the steps without realizing it. 1, 2, 3. The footsteps cross the room, pause briefly, then turn, changing direction. That pause is the most unsettling part, because it feels like whoever, or whatever, is stopping to listen. Just like you are. Many visitors report that the footsteps follow patterns, not random wandering. They move from room to room, down hallways, stopping near staircases. Sometimes they begin upstairs and slowly descend, each step landing heavier than the last. The sound grows closer, louder, more personal. Your chest tightens, your breath becomes shallow, and a strange instinct takes over. Don't move, don't speak, don't let it know you hear it. What makes these footsteps truly terrifying is that they don't belong to any living person. Security cameras capture nothing. Staff members rush to investigate, only to find empty rooms and untouched floors. Yet the sound continues, sometimes even after everyone has left the house. Former employees have admitted that they avoid certain areas late at night, especially the upper floors, because that's where the footsteps are strongest, clearest, most undeniable. Some people say the footsteps sound heavy, like boots striking wood, suggesting a tall figure with authority. Others describe them as lighter but deliberate, as if a person is carefully walking, mindful of every step. The inconsistency makes it worse. It suggests more than one presence, more than one story replaying itself over and over again. The house doesn't echo chaos, it echoes routine, like the past refusing to break its habits. There are moments when the footsteps stop directly above or behind someone. That's when fear shifts into something deeper. People describe feeling watched, evaluated, as though the unseen walker has noticed them. The air feels thicker. Your skin prickles. You become aware of every sound your body makes, your breathing, your heartbeat, wondering if it can hear you too. Some visitors swear that when they turn suddenly, expecting to see someone standing there, the footsteps resume instantly, as if reacting to their movement. Even more disturbing are reports of footsteps that mimic living people. A guest hears steps behind them, matching their pace exactly. When they stop, the footsteps stop. When they move again, so do the steps. This creates a horrifying realization: you are not being passed by. You are being followed. Not aggressively. Not violently. Patiently. Like a shadow without form. The Whaley House was built on land already marked by death. And some believe the footsteps belong to spirits who never accepted they were gone. Others think the house itself remembers the motion of those who once lived and died there, replaying their presence like a recording worn into the floorboards. Either explanation offers no comfort when you're standing alone in a quiet room, listening to steps that refuse to reveal their source. There are also stories of footsteps heard during moments of complete isolation, late at night, when a single staff member locks up, checks each room, and confirms they are alone. As soon as the lights dim, the walking begins. Not frantic, not threatening. Just steady movement, back and forth, as if someone is restless, trapped between moments, unable to leave. People leave the Whaley House talking about many things: cold spots, shadows, doors, but it's the footsteps they remember most. Because footsteps mean intention. They mean presence. They mean something is not only there, but active, moving, aware. And in a place like the Whaley House, awareness is far more frightening than anger. The sound lingers even after visitors step outside, ringing in their ears as they walk away, making them glance over their shoulders, wondering if the rhythm they hear now belongs to their own steps, or to something that learned how to follow long ago. In the Whaley House, the shadows behave differently than they should. They don't simply form when the light fades, and they don't disappear when the light returns. They appear with purpose, gathering in corners, stretching along walls, and standing where no person should be. Many visitors describe noticing them only out of the corner of their eye at first. A tall, unmoving shape near a doorway or at the end of a hallway. When they turn their head fully to look, the shadow vanishes, leaving behind a sudden rush of cold and the uneasy feeling that something just stepped away, rather than disappeared. These shadow figures are not flat or vague. People often say they have depth, height, and weight, as if they are three-dimensional beings made entirely of darkness. Some appear human, shaped, broad-shouldered, upright, silent. Others seem thinner, stretched unnaturally tall, their outlines flickering, as though they are struggling to hold a form. They never rush toward you. They never wave or speak. They simply stand there, watching, claiming space as if the house still belongs to them. The most disturbing encounters happen near doorways. A visitor walking through a hallway suddenly senses movement ahead and sees a shadow standing in the frame of a door that was moments ago empty. The figure blocks the path, filling the doorway completely, forcing the person to stop. The shadow does not move, but the feeling it creates is overwhelming, like an unspoken warning, a silent demand not to go any further. Some people report that when they step back, the shadow slowly fades, melting into the darkness of the room behind it, as if satisfied that its message was understood. Lighting does not explain these figures. People have watched them appear under bright lamps, during guided tours, with multiple witnesses standing in the same room. When lights are switched on suddenly, the shadows do not scatter the way normal darkness would. Instead, they thin out, becoming less defined, before vanishing completely. That delay is what terrifies people most. Normal shadows disappear instantly. These seem reluctant to leave. Children, in particular, react strongly to these shadow figures. Several visitors have reported children pointing at empty spaces and asking who the man is or why someone is standing there. The descriptions are eerily consistent: tall, dark, quiet, watching. Children often refuse to enter certain rooms afterward, crying or clinging to their parents, insisting they are being stared at. Even after leaving the house, some children describe seeing the same shadow shapes in their dreams, standing in doorways, just like in the Whaley House. Some witnesses claim the shadows move slowly across walls, stretching unnaturally long, crossing over portraits and furniture without distortion. This movement is not smooth. It's deliberate, as if each step is carefully placed. When the shadow reaches a corner or doorway, it sometimes pauses, lingering just long enough for the observer to doubt what they're seeing. Was it really there? Or did the mind create it? That doubt is short-lived, because the feeling that follows, the pressure in the chest, the tightness in the throat, is too real to ignore. There are moments when multiple shadow figures are seen at once, not interacting with each other, not acknowledging one another, but occupying the same space like separate memories layered on top of each other. People describe the overwhelming sensation of being surrounded without being touched, watched from multiple angles without ever seeing eyes. The house feels crowded in those moments, alive with silent observers who refuse to show themselves fully. Some believe these shadow figures are spirits who no longer remember how to appear human, while others think they are something darker, entities drawn to the energy of suffering embedded in the house. Whatever they are, they seem aware of the living. Several visitors have reported shadows reacting to their presence, shifting position when someone enters a room, or appearing closer after being noticed. One step inside, one shadow closer. One glance away, and it's gone, but the sense of being followed remains. The Whaley House does not use shadows to scare people in obvious ways. It lets them appear briefly, just long enough to plant fear, then removes them, allowing the imagination to do the rest. The absence becomes as frightening as the presence. You begin checking doorways, corners, and reflections, unsure whether the next shadow you see will belong to the house, or to something that has been standing there all along, waiting for you to notice. In the Whaley House, doors are never just doors. They are boundaries, thresholds between rooms, between moments, between what feels safe and what clearly is not. Visitors often notice it begins subtly. A door that was firmly shut moments ago is now slightly open, just enough to reveal darkness beyond the frame. No sound announces the change. No creak, no warning. It's simply open, as if someone quietly decided to leave it that way. People tell themselves they must have forgotten to close it properly. But the unease settles in their stomach before logic can finish the thought. Then there are times when the doors make their presence known violently. A sudden slam echoes through the house, sharp and explosive, reverberating down the hallways and up the staircases. The sound is so loud it makes people jump, hearts pounding, adrenaline surging. The first instinct is always the same: wind. But the windows are closed. The air is still. No breeze moves the curtains. The slam feels intentional, final, like punctuation at the end of a sentence no one heard being spoken. Some witnesses describe watching doors move on their own. Slowly, unnaturally. A door begins to swing inward, inch by inch, the hinges groaning under invisible pressure. People freeze, eyes locked on the movement, waiting for it to stop. Sometimes it does. Other times it continues until the door shuts, completely, with a soft but chilling click, as if carefully closed by an unseen hand. That gentleness is often more disturbing than the loud slams, because it suggests control, awareness, and patience. There are moments when the timing feels personal. A visitor steps into a room, turns their back for just a second, and hears the door behind them close. When they reach for the handle, it feels heavier than it should, as if someone is holding it from the other side. Panic rises quickly in those moments. The mind races. You pull again, harder this time, and suddenly the resistance is gone. The door opens easily, almost mockingly, leaving you standing there, shaken, questioning your own senses. Staff members have reported doors opening repeatedly in the same locations, as though certain thresholds are more active than others. Doors leading to hallways, staircases, and bedrooms seem especially restless. Some will open every time they are closed, no matter how firmly. Others refuse to open at all, stuck fast without explanation, only to work perfectly fine hours later. This unpredictable behavior creates a feeling that the house itself is deciding where you are allowed to go. Visitors often say the most terrifying part is not seeing the doors move, but hearing them when no one else is around. Late at night, after tours have ended, the sound of a door opening slowly can be heard from another floor. Footsteps may or may not follow. Sometimes there is only the door, moving in the silence, announcing presence without revealing form. A slam from an empty room feels like a warning shot, a reminder that the house is never truly empty. There are also reports of doors responding to human behavior. When people argue, laugh loudly, or mock the idea of ghosts, doors are more likely to react. A sudden slam cuts off conversation instantly, replacing laughter with stunned silence. It feels corrective, almost disciplinary. As if something within the house does not appreciate being challenged. People lower their voices after that, speaking more carefully, respecting an unspoken rule they didn't know existed until it was enforced. Some witnesses claim doors open at the exact moment someone thinks about leaving a room, as if the house is listening. Others say doors close just as they are about to step through, forcing them to stop short, heart racing, breath caught in their throat. That brief pause, standing inches from a closed door, creates a powerful sense of being blocked, of being told without words that this space is not meant for you. At least not right now. What makes these experiences linger in the mind is the lack of randomness. Doors don't just fly open everywhere, all the time. They choose moments. They choose people. They act when attention is highest, or when vulnerability is strongest. The movement feels deliberate, staged for maximum impact. Leaving witnesses with the unsettling impression that something unseen understands fear and knows exactly how to create it. Long after leaving the Whaley House, people remember the sound of those doors. The way a slam seemed to echo inside their chest. The way a slow closing made the room feel smaller, tighter, harder to breathe in. Doors are meant to separate spaces, to offer privacy and protection. In the Whaley House, they do the opposite, turning ordinary thresholds into reminders that some boundaries are controlled by forces you cannot see, cannot reason with, and cannot stop from opening or closing whenever they choose. Inside the Whaley House, the feeling of being watched often comes before anything else. It arrives quietly, without warning, like a shift in the atmosphere that your body notices before your mind does. One moment you feel normal, steady, grounded in reality. The next, the air changes. It grows heavier, thicker, as if the room has filled with something unseen. Your skin tightens, the hairs on your arms lift, and an unexplainable chill crawls slowly up your spine. Cold spots in the house appear suddenly and disappear just as fast. A visitor may walk through a hallway feeling comfortable, then step into a pocket of freezing air so sharp it steals their breath. It doesn't feel like normal cold. It feels targeted, concentrated, wrapping around the body instead of surrounding the room. People instinctively hug themselves, rub their arms, and look around, expecting to see an open window or a vent nearby. There is none. Others standing just a few feet away feel nothing at all. These cold moments often come with a strange pressure, like invisible eyes settling on you, not a glance but a stare, long, heavy, intentional. People report the sensation of being examined, as if something is trying to understand them. The instinct is immediate and powerful, turn around. But when they do, there's no one there. Just empty space and silence that feels louder than noise. The fear intensifies when the cold follows you. Visitors have described moving away from a cold area, only to feel it return seconds later, wrapping around their shoulders or brushing against their back. It doesn't rush. It drifts. Slow and deliberate. Some say it feels like walking through a living presence. Like passing through someone who shouldn't be able to touch you, but somehow can. That brief contact leaves people shaken. Heart racing, breath shallow. In some rooms, the cold settles without moving at all, creating a still, frozen pocket that feels wrong, unnatural. People hesitate before stepping into it, sensing instinctively that crossing into that space means crossing into something else. When they do step forward, the temperature drop is immediate, dramatic, as if the house itself is reacting to their presence. A shiver runs through the body that has nothing to do with weather and everything to do with fear. The feeling of being watched often grows strongest in these moments. Visitors describe pressure on the back of the neck, between the shoulders, or directly behind the eyes, as if attention is being focused on them with intense concentration. Some feel their chest tighten, their breathing become difficult, like the room is closing in. Others report sudden emotional waves, unease, sadness, dread, emotions that don't feel like their own. What makes this sensation unbearable is its intelligence. It doesn't feel random. It feels aware. People notice that the feeling intensifies when they stand still, as though movement somehow disrupts whatever is observing them. When they stop walking, the cold deepens. When they turn their back, the pressure increases. It creates the unsettling impression that something prefers you vulnerable, uncertain, frozen in place. Groups experience this too, but not always together. One person will suddenly grow pale, whispering that it feels cold, that something is wrong, while others feel nothing. Then, moments later, another person experiences it, as if attention is being passed from one to the next. This selective focus makes the presence feel calculating, like it is choosing who to notice and when. There are moments when people feel the urge to speak, to apologize, to explain themselves without knowing why. Others feel the opposite, an intense desire to stay silent, as if noise might provoke a response. Some visitors report whispering instinctively, lowering their voices, even when no one tells them to, afraid of attracting further attention from whatever is watching. Even after leaving the room, the sensation lingers. The cold fades, but the awareness does not. People keep glancing over their shoulders, checking reflections in glass and mirrors, feeling as though they are being followed by something that doesn't need to be seen to be present. The house feels closer in those moments, less like a building and more like a living observer. What stays with visitors, long after they step outside, is not the temperature itself, but the certainty that the cold was not empty. It carried intent. It carried awareness. And for a brief moment, inside the Whaley House, something noticed them, and did not look away. In the Whaley House, silence is never empty. It stretches, settles, and then begins to fill with sound so faint you almost miss it. A soft murmur, barely louder than a breath, seems to rise from the walls themselves. At first, people assume it's their imagination, the mind reacting to the tension of the place. But the whispers return, clearer this time, closer, threading their way through the quiet like something searching for attention. The voices never announce themselves. They don't call names loudly or shout for help. They stay low, intimate, as if meant for only one listener at a time. Some visitors hear their names spoken so softly it feels like a thought instead of a sound. Others hear fragments of sentences, unfinished words that stop just before meaning becomes clear. The uncertainty is unbearable. Your mind strains to understand, leaning into the sound, and in that moment you realize the whisper wants you to listen. These whispers often come from impossible places. Inside closed rooms, from behind walls, from corners where no one could stand. People press their ears closer, hearts pounding, only for the sound to shift suddenly to another part of the room. It doesn't echo the way normal sound does. it relocates. As if whatever is speaking is moving without footsteps, without form, sliding through the house freely. Some describe the tone as mournful, heavy with sadness. Others say it feels urgent, tense, filled with unresolved emotion. There are moments when the whisper seems almost angry, sharp with frustration, as though something is trying desperately to be heard, but lacks the strength to speak aloud. The emotional weight of these voices hits without warning, leaving people feeling drained, uneasy, or overwhelmed by feelings that don't belong to them. The unseen presence behind the whispers is often felt more strongly than heard. Visitors report sudden pressure near their ears, like someone leaning in close. The instinctive reaction is to pull away, to turn quickly, but nothing is there. Still, the sense of closeness remains, intimate and invasive. Some feel breath against their skin, cold and unnatural, causing them to flinch and step back in fear. These encounters are deeply personal. Two people standing side by side may experience completely different things. One hears whispers clearly, while the other hears nothing at all. This selective attention makes the presence feel intentional, as if it is choosing who to speak to and who to ignore. Those who hear the whispers often struggle to describe them later. Their memories blurred, the words slipping away like smoke the moment they try to hold on to them. In certain rooms, the whispers intensify, layering over one another, overlapping just enough to create confusion without forming a clear conversation. It feels crowded, like standing in a room filled with people speaking, just out of reach, none of them acknowledging you directly, yet all aware of your presence. The sound rises and falls unpredictably, creating waves of tension that make it hard to breathe normally. Some visitors report responding without realizing it, whispering back instinctively, asking who is there or what they want. The moment they speak, the whispers stop. The silence that follows is worse than the sound, heavy and expectant, as if something is listening now, waiting to see what you will do next. People describe feeling exposed in those moments, like they've revealed something they weren't supposed to. The tragic history tied to the house seems to bleed into these experiences. The whispers feel old, worn down by time, repeating emotions rather than clear stories: grief, regret, anger, fear. These feelings roll through the rooms like invisible waves, attaching themselves to anyone sensitive enough to feel them. Visitors sometimes leave rooms suddenly emotional, unable to explain why their chest feels tight or their eyes burn with tears. At night, the whispers become more active. When the house quiets completely, when footsteps fade and doors stop moving, the voices find space to exist. Staff members and late visitors report hearing conversations that don't make sense, exchanges with missing replies, pauses where someone else should speak but never does. It feels like listening to a conversation trapped between moments, forever incomplete. What makes these whispers so unsettling is that they never fully reveal themselves. They offer just enough sound to confirm presence, but never enough to provide understanding. They leave listeners caught between fear and curiosity, unsure whether to run or stay, whether the voices are asking for help or simply reminding the living that they are not forgotten. The unseen presences behind the whispers do not demand attention. They simply exist, pressing their memories into the air, letting anyone who listens carry them, even after they leave the house, and step back into the noise of the living world. And when you finally step outside the Whaley House, the night air should feel like relief. But it doesn't. The silence follows you. The shadows feel a little too close. Every sound behind you makes your heart race. Every footstep makes you wonder if it's really your own. Because places like the Whaley House don't end at the doorway. They stay with you. They linger in memory, in dreams, in the quiet moments when the world goes still. Some houses are built with wood and stone, but this one was built with loss, pain, and unfinished stories. And once it knows you've listened, once it knows you've felt its presence, it never truly lets you go. So the next time you hear footsteps in an empty room, see a shadow where none should exist, or feel a sudden chill with no explanation, remember this place. Remember that not all the dead are silent, and not all the living are alone.